Another installment of HR Matters. Today we're going to be talking about new employee orientation. So you found the great employee, you've hired the great employee, and now they're getting ready to start. And we're going to talk a little bit about what that process should look like in order to ensure the easiest transition into a new workplace and hopefully help kind of create the basis for you to keep that employee and retain that employee. So starting a new job, as we all know, can be exciting, and it's also very nerve-wracking. You have lots of questions. You're uncertain how things are done in the new organization. And sometimes it's simple questions like, when am I going to get my first paycheck? Where's the break room? Can I just get up and go to the bathroom, or do I need to wait till break time? You know, things along those lines. And it's also a time for them to introduce themselves, you know, not only to the other people that they're going to work with, but it's your opportunity to help them understand the organization's mission, its vision, its culture, the policies, benefits, and sometimes, if you're able to, even the company's executive team. So all of these steps, as far as new hire orientation is concerned, can really assist in kind of creating the basis of what that new employee thinks of the organization. It's kind of their first impression, for lack of a better description. So we're going to talk a little bit about what that looks like today. So the purpose of an orientation with a new employee, or even one that you're reintroducing to the organization, is to reduce startup costs, to help welcome the new employee, provide the essential information that they need during that process. Also helps you to get to know them and assess any immediate training needs, because sometimes you bring somebody on that may have a majority of what you're looking for. There may be some gaps in training that you're going to be able to assess during that new hire orientation pretty quickly into their tenure with the organization. You're going to help create a positive first impression. We all know first impressions are everything. It starts from the moment they've called your company and spoken to your recruiter or whatever hiring manager is doing the hiring, and the process, you know, continues from that point forward. So you want to make sure that it's, you know, one that is consistent and also welcoming. It's also a great way to reduce turnover. The worst thing possible you can do is kind of leave an employee floundering when they first start without any real basis or real new hire orientation to follow. And that can create some angst for the employee, some concern as to how the company does business, things along those lines. And sometimes, if you've ever lost an employee during the first few weeks, it could be related to not having a good new hire orientation in place. It also helps develop realistic job expectations, positive attitudes, and job satisfaction. So they're really going to get more of an idea of their position, what's expected of them, and how what they do contributes to the bottom line and to the mission and vision of the organization. So the best new hire orientations usually have these elements. Number one, they're engaging. It's not just a sit in a room, fill out paperwork, here's your cubicle type of environment. It's one in which they get to engage and interact with other employees, and hopefully managers, supervisors, and the executive team if available. They should involve senior leaders. I think that it's really important for new hires to feel that they not only contribute to the organization at whatever level they may be, but also that the senior leaders of the organization are committed to their success with the company as well. Helps create a shared vision. It feels more welcoming and enfolding into the organization, and they truly feel that they're part of the talent value chain. So if you have those types of features in your new hire, great. If you don't, you know, definitely reach out to HR and talk a little bit more about how you can make some even small but very significant changes to your new hire orientation to help kind of develop some of these areas. Some of the key information, and I think it's included in most new hire orientations, is just brief company information, which could include, you know, the organizational chart, who do you report to, and who does that person report to, et cetera. Departments and how they're interrelated to each other and how they support each other. Benefits information, of course, when do benefits go into effect, what do we have available, et cetera. And then, of course, information about their job in general. It could be as simple as where do you report, when do you report, and who do you report, but it also can include, who are their resources and how do they find their tools, and things along those lines are very important key information to provide to an employee when they're first hired with your organization. Your leadership role is to have an orientation plan. If you have an HR representative on site, great, that's fantastic. If you don't, you can certainly reach out to your HR administrator through HR Shield to assist you with this process. But you definitely want to have an orientation plan in terms of your role in this new hire, overseeing their orientation progress and evaluating the progress of the employee themselves. Are they getting it? Are they catching on? Do they seem engaged? All of those are very important steps that you have to make as your orientation into your department, because they're going to get the HR piece, they're going to get the benefits piece, they're going to get the overview piece, but now it comes down to how are you going to orient them into your department and orient them to their position and your role in it. So before the first day even begins, we know that we normally get a completed application. If your company does background checks, there'll be a background check conducted. Also, if your company drug tests, there'll be a drug test. Once all of those things have happened and they've gone through their hiring process, they've interviewed, they've been selected, now we're going to prepare that new hire packet that's going to include all the information that we need to collect in terms of payroll, W-2, I-9, all of those HR-related forms. Generally, either your payroll company, if you have one, will assist you with that. If you have an HR representative on site and you do that all yourself, great. If you need to know, where do I do that, how do I do that, certainly, again, reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to guide you in that process of new hire paperwork that should be prepared and completed. It also includes your employee handbook if you have one. If you don't have one or your handbook's very old, please reach out to your HR Shield, HR administrator, and they'll be more than happy to assist you in getting that updated and or created for you. Once everything's prepared and all the packets ready, we're ready to go, we're then going to call the new hire, of course, and we're going to prep them. And it's giving them the basics. You're going to show up at this location at this time. Here's where you should park. This is what your dress code should be. If you provide lunch for them, great. Make sure they know that. If you don't, make sure they know that as well, so they can, bring themselves some lunch and be prepared for however long they're there on that first day. And any other materials they might need, whether that be to bring with them a pen or a pad of paper or something along those lines, anything that will help them be prepared for their first day in orientation. And then, of course, make the staff aware that there's a new employee. So you want to make sure that anybody who might have interaction or any other departments that support, some companies will do a company-wide email and say, hey, so-and-so is beginning, this is where they're working, this is what they're doing. Others will just make those who need to know. You're going to want to designate a workstation depending upon what your company is, setting up the phone, getting the cubicle assigned to them, computer, etc., or just their workstation in general, depending upon your company and what that person does. And then, of course, select an assistant if that's necessary. But make sure they're ready and they feel welcomed. Some of the worst impressions that you get, and this has been shown in studies talking to people who have left organizations very quickly in their tenure, is that they didn't feel like anyone was prepared for them, or it wasn't very welcoming to discover that you didn't even have a place to work in the first few days that you're on the job. You have no place to sit, you have no computer to use, and you're really left to your own devices. So it's important to be prepared for that prior to that person starting. And then the first day, of course, you're welcoming the employee to your organization, making sure that they have those introductions to their supervisor, department head, co-workers, someone to tour the workplace. Oftentimes, the manager or supervisor may not have time to conduct some of those things, so many organizations will assign a work buddy or a new hire buddy, someone who that will be able to give them a very clear picture of the organization, an ambassador, so to speak, that can give them the tour and kind of do some of that welcoming thing if you're unable to fit that into your schedule. Obviously, getting all the paperwork complete, documentation, making sure that we're collecting information for the I-9 and W-2 and all that new hire paperwork. And then, of course, an HR orientation session, if you have them, have your employee attend that. It doesn't necessarily have to be a human resource person conducting that orientation session, but sometimes it's nice to have that first day kind of overall welcoming that we discussed earlier in the earlier slides. Again, if you need some guidance on what that should look like and how to set that up, certainly give us a call and let us know. We're more than happy to guide you in that process. So what does HR normally cover, or what does the person covering that piece generally go over? Any training requirements, safety and security of the building, what to do in an emergency, smoking areas, things along those lines. Again, a review of that employee handbook. Hopefully you have one. If you don't, you definitely need to have a handbook so employees are very clear on what their expectations and rights are. The compensation system, how do you get paid, when do you get paid? How and when to access pay stubs. Many companies have gone away from paper checks and do a lot of that direct deposit. So if I need to know where my direct deposit, how much money went in the bank, where do I find that? Is it emailed to me, etc.? And then a benefits overview, generally going over when you're eligible, what you're eligible for, and when that would go into effect. That's generally the HR, the human resources piece that's covered during new hire orientation. The supervisor or the manager, or the person that this person will be directly reporting to, would generally go over the attendance requirements. As we spoke about earlier, when do you go to the bathroom? Do you clock in and out? Like what's the process in terms of attendance? What's the discipline policy in attendance? I mean, what are the expectations as to how many absences, how many tardies, things along those lines, really making the attendance policy very clear. Equipment and property use and any documents that they need to sign related or associated with that. Professionalism and code of conduct in the workplace. Any personal concerns they may have. Definitely want to go over the job expectations. You may not have a real clear idea in the beginning on them. We hope you do, and have a process in place on how to onboard them into their role. But definitely going over that job description and what their expectations are, and what the next weeks and months look like for them. The department functions, as well as any additional trainings that they may need to attend. Many organizations do some of these preliminary trainings to get them familiar with systems and processes and so forth. And then in the first week, as we talked about earlier, one of the biggest first impressions is definitely making sure that a work area has been designated prior to that employee start, so they have some place that is their own that they can sit at, or an area, work area that belongs to them. And give them a project to work on immediately so they feel valued. It's very difficult as a new employee when you don't really know your direction, and for the first 3-4 days you're literally sitting there not really knowing what's expected of you and what you should be doing, and you haven't been giving any real work to do. So definitely get them working on a project, whether that be alone or with a group, to kind of acclimate themselves. Follow up during the first week. Ask them if they have any questions. How are they doing? Anything that they may want to discuss. Again, review that job description, discuss and set the expectations for them. And if it's possible, and then if you can fit it into your schedule, it's always nice to take your new employees to lunch, get to know a little bit more about them, or take your team out, whatever would work to kind of help acclimate them to their new team and their new company and help them feel welcomed. And then over the next few weeks, you just continue to make sure you're asking the employees' overall impressions, any feedback that they may have or suggestions. Talk about the work projects assigned and answer questions regarding those work projects. Then, you definitely want to talk about performance appraisal. You want to let them know it. If you have a 90-day policy, at 90 days, you're going to look at performance. At 6 months, you look at performance, or at the year. And then schedule ongoing feedback meetings. Make sure you're having a touch point with these individuals, especially during their first 6 months of employment. This is a most integral time for them in the very beginning as they acclimate to their role and to your organization. And as a final thought, we just want to say that the bottom line is that it's really expensive. If you monetize how much it costs to place your ads, place your postings online, the manpower to search the resumes, find the people, do their phone interview with them, get them in, the time it takes from all the hiring managers and anybody who has to interview that person, background checks, drug screenings, trainings, all of those things just to get a new employee with you. And then if you lose them, now you've got to start the process again to replace them. And HR experts estimate that a turnover costs them 30 to 50% of an employee's first yearly pay. And some suggest that the true cost is closer to 100, because literally you've gone through all of those steps and now you've got to do them all again. So most of the actions that you take to facilitate the transition for new employees, it's definitely worth the effort, not only just from a moral standpoint and from a standpoint of really making sure that, you know, your organization's vision and mission is being realized through the hire of these individuals that will hopefully become part of the company family. In addition to that, it's also really it's worth the effort in terms of, you know, monetarily. I mean, what's it going to cost? The bottom line is, what does replacing these people cost? And an effective and welcome and new hire integration process can help ensure a better retention rate and thus highly cost efficient. So think about the things that you like and the things that helped you acclimate to a position that you really loved, and how you can incorporate some of those things in your new hire orientation. So as mentioned in this particular segment, make sure that you reach out to your HR Shield HR administrator to discuss anything in relation to policies or your handbook, whether you have one or not, as well as things that you can do for your new hire orientation that will help acclimate your employees to their environment, and we can certainly help you in you know, looking at that process and getting something in place that will assist you. You can certainly reach out to us via email or call your HR administrator directly, or you can call us at 844-4HR-PROS, and we'll be happy to assist you. Thank you very much for your time today, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.